This episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by Colectivo Coffee. Handmade coffee since 1993. Check them out online at colectivo.com.
This is Joe Wong. Welcome to The Trap Set, where each week we explore the lives of drummers. I want to play something for you. You're hearing Eyes to the Wind by The War on Drugs, featuring my guest, Charlie Hall, on drums. Charlie began collaborating with the Philadelphia band soon after its 2005 formation, not only as a drummer, but as a keyboardist and guitarist. Due to his commitments as a teacher and social worker, he floated in and out of the band in its early years, but joined as a full-time member during the recording of the acclaimed 2014 album, Lost in the Dream. Charlie works with artists that value songwriting above virtuosity. He embraces the profound nature of simplicity, and his attention to sonic nuance breathes new life into well-worn rhythms. In addition to his work with War on Drugs, Charlie's talents have been called upon by artists such as Lekman, Low Moon, and Windsor for the Derby. He's currently at work on a new album with the War on Drugs, the band's first for Atlantic Records. And now our conversation with Charlie Hall.
Yeah, well, I want to talk to you about that giant ball.
That's what I sit on when I'm
Do you
mixing.
bounce?
I think subconsciously you tend to bounce.
And you just sort of forces you to sort of use different muscles to support yourself and strengthen your back and things like that?
I think that's the concept. I'm sure in another 10 years, studies will come out saying that they're bad for you.
Right.
Like everything else.
I'm interested in that.
I guess now standing desks are just as bad for you.
Are they? My brother
sitting
did that
desks.
for a long time. He had like a banker's desk, I guess they called it or whatever, but it's like a big, tall sort of standing, and he worked standing all day.
Is he a banker?
He was, yeah.
Ah.
So
what is he now?
Well, now he's out of the banking world and doing this project called Eco Innovate, which is trying to help businesses.
He's trying to clear his conscience.
Realign. Yeah, I think maybe it's something like that. From hedge funds to helping, businesses.
Did his hedge fund go under?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
So yeah, he's just sort of taken a little career.
How many
detour.
siblings do you have?
2. Well, I have 2 full siblings and 2 step siblings.
Okay.
I'm the youngest, so my brother's 9 years older than me. My sister's 11 years older than me, and then my stepbrother and stepsister are kind of in between my brother and me.
Really? And then how long were your parents together after you were born?
About 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so kind of never really knew that version of things.
But your sister made it all the way to high school.
My sister did make it all the way to high school, and she stayed put in Providence. My brother and I went to Connecticut with my mom.
Got it.
And then I got my stepbrother and my stepsister on my dad's side in Providence.
Okay, so let's back it up.
Yeah.
You were born in Providence.
Then
you moved to Connecticut. When you
Wilton, Connecticut.
When you were 4.
I was about, must have been 4 or 5. Yeah, right before kindergarten. I guess 5. Spent a summer in Narragansett in between when things were going haywire.
Do you remember that?
I remember it really well, actually. It was, we were staying at a family friend's kind of summer house in the winter, which is kind of one of my I love beach towns in the off season, like in the winter. I'm not a big beach guy But I love, and so I remember it vividly. It was the summer of.
There's something poetic about it,
It's
right?
great, yeah.
To be
it's quiet.
in a vacation area
And
off season.
Narragansett is filled with sand dunes, and there was this epic snowstorm. It must have been the winter of '79, and it is definitely some of my earliest memories are just of running around in these sand dunes covered in snow. It was very, very crazy, playing Star Wars and doing all that stuff.
What other stuff did you do in 1979?
I played and sang Kiss songs on my Muppet Show drum set.
Okay.
For,
So you
neighbors.
already had discovered drums.
I was like the
point.
singing monkey. My brother
Mickey
would
Dolenz.
give me monkey with a Y. Get a quarter and sing Beth, for my sister's friends.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. It's, and, full face paint and the whole deal. That was kind of like my Kiss years were definitely like, because my brother was in middle school, so listening to all the stuff that like a middle school boy listens to in 1978, 79.
So you were wise beyond your years.
I was just following there, I got the Cars from my sister. I got, the classic rock from my brother. And
did you often fall into that role? Like you were the entertainment for the older kids?
I think so. Not that I'm a particularly like, big showman or anything like that. I'm actually a bit sort of sheepish about that. But yeah, I guess I was, because I, had a drum set. My grandmother bought me this little Muppet Show drum set, which is I save everything. I'm like, my house is like a freakish museum, or the basement is rather. House is pretty minimal. But the one thing that got away is that Muppet Show drum set. My mother gave it away when I got my first set of Ludwigs.
Have you or have you not looked on eBay to see if you can buy one?
Okay, so I have looked. I don't even think I would buy it because I've never ever seen this set before except for once on display in a drum shop in Portland. Not Revival, one of the other shops up there. It's like in the window, kind of sun bleached, sitting there. And I've been, obviously we're talking about it ad nauseum here, but I've been thinking about this for probably 30 years. This piece of sentimentality that I don't have, this physical thing that I don't have. So I saw I was faced with that thing, like, because I was like, there it is. Like, there's the first time. It's never on eBay, these things. This particular drum set, this toy drum set, it just doesn't pop up. I never ever see it. They're probably all in landfills. But I saw one finally a couple years ago, and I was faced with that thing of like, do I actually even want this? And the answer is no. Like, I want the one that I had.
Right.
But like buying another one, it wouldn't replace that. So yeah, but I got my first real set that next Christmas. My mom bought.
So you were 5 or 6?
I was 6. I got a Champagne Sparkle 65 Ludwig 22 13 16.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you think that was partially because they had recently got divorced?
Good question. Like, was that a lavish thing to give to a 6-year-old? Yes. I think she spent $150 on it.
Oh.
In 1980.
I guess the concept of vintage drums didn't exist in 1980 in that way.
No.
Not the way that it exists now.
She bought them from a neighbor,
Yeah. I remember even in the 90s you could buy great old drum kits for cheap.
Yeah. So yeah, the Muppet Show drums.
Okay.
I would add on with like coffee cans and homemade octobans, things like that.
Do you remember unwrapping the Ludwig drum set or unveiling it?
Oh, absolutely. It was set up in the living room. Came downstairs and there it was. It's like the light beam.
Did you think that it was brought by Santa?
Yeah, I think I don't know what I thought. Yeah, I hung on to the Santa thing a little longer than I probably should have. I pretended.
Six is still a Santa
age.
Age,
Is still Santa
for sure.
age. My older son's 9, and I'm wondering what he really thinks of, he's pretty smart. He's smarter than I am. I wonder what his whole Santa thing is right now.
You can't tell if he's just playing along?
Yeah, I think that he's probably, because I remember those couple years of playing along where I pretended like I believed because I didn't want to hurt like my mom's feelings or anybody. I just felt like I was supposed to pretend like I believed,
I feel like I believed it for much longer because I was the oldest kid.
You were. Different
and
deal.
I came from an atheist household, so I needed something to believe in.
Right.
I remember I asked Santa for immortality for myself and my family when I was 6.
Did you get it?
I got a Nintendo, which is almost as good.
It's pretty great.
When were you born? 75?
74.
74?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what were you listening to?
Drum-wise, so after I got over my Kiss phase, The Who was definitely big, and then the Cars were really big for me, the Pretenders. My brother was a big Talking Heads guy. And so then then when I started to, like, U2 was my kind of thing that I branched out and found for myself, I think, a little bit. That wasn't my brother's or my sister's thing, like when The Unforgettable Fire or War really came out, and like then The Unforgettable Fire was like that was my thing.
Right.
That wasn't theirs. Like neither of them don't like U2, but that was like my band.
Lots of people don't talk about Larry as a drummer. Great drummer.
They really don't. Yeah, he's incredible. I think about him a lot. I think with this band, with the War on Drugs, and I think that one interesting thing about Larry is like watching him like have to evolve with the band, like the whole transition like around Octane Baby and him figuring out like what his role is and learning to play with loops and inside and outside loops and all that. I thought it was really cool how he rolled with that. And I don't mind you disappearing, 'cause I know you can be found. Maybe living on the dark side of the street. Damn. When we're living in the moment and losing our grip.
Today's episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by our good friends at Revival Drum Shop. Revival is community-oriented, and they feature a one-of-a-kind collection of vintage and handmade custom drums, eclectic percussion, lessons, and rentals. They're truly one of the great drum shops of the world, and you can check them out the next time you're in Portland, Oregon, or online at revivaldrumshop.com. So you get into U2.
Mm-hmm.
This puts you into like maybe 4th grade or something like that?
Yeah, 4th grade.
Were you playing with other kids in school?
Yeah, I was playing with older kids. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about music, I think. It's just, that it connects people.
But it connected you to older kids.
Connected me to older kids.
Yeah, that's what it did for me, too.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. I was always the little kid playing with high schoolers, because I had a drum set or whatever. And
Right.
I played. And
exactly.
I was competent.
Right.
So, yeah, I played in a band with some high schoolers playing, like U2 and the Police and stuff like that. And then a little later on, I got into a band with some, actually, people, my brothers, like some of my brother's friends, playing like Grateful Dead, like all Grateful Dead.
All right. So you're in 4th grade, 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing with older kids.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're in middle school playing with high school kids.
Yeah.
What are your ambitions at the time? Are you thinking of this as just a fun thing that you're doing? Are you fantasizing about being a rock star? What are you thinking?
I mean, it's funny. I don't know that I ever thought about it in terms of, my livelihood. It was just always everything, it was just always like part of life.
Were you good in school?
Yeah, I was pretty good in school. I could have applied myself a little more, but I was always in the, I was like the one that was like just barely hanging on in the AP classes,
Sure.
Like just getting by.
Just it's enough to just know, okay, I could do this, and if I applied myself,
Maybe.
I could outsmart the rest of you.
Yeah, well, I know that's not true, but yeah, I was a pretty good student, and I had a very, I loved school. Like
You did?
I loved it. Yeah, I loved my.
What did you love about it? The orderliness of it?
I
Or-
guess so. Maybe. I mean, kids love structure, right? I mean, it's like
Some do. I didn't.
you didn't. I loved my teachers. I loved my friends. Like it was.
What kind of school did you go to?
It was. It was on like an old apple orchard. It was pretty idyllic. It was an old.
Was it a Montessori type thing?
No, it was just like a regular old sort of. It was a K to 12 school. I went to the same school for 13 years.
Was it
Like it was a
private?
very nurturing, private school. It was very, I was very grateful that my father afforded that for us. Like he really, like that was something that he busted his butt for. And, all 5 of us had the opportunity to go to, we went to different schools, but, that school was a very, very formative, place for me. The relationships that I built there, and those are still some of my best friends, and I'm still in touch with my teachers. And
Wow.
You
Did you ever go back to career day?
I've done that circuit.
When you go back for career day, what's your spiel?
Yeah, good question. So I think that my spiel it generally is about it's about relationships, right? I mean that's like everything in life is based on relationships and how you treat each other, and treating each other with kindness, and just sort of always being mindful of kind of giving people the benefit of the doubt, and you just never know like what any one interaction that you have in life, like what the significance of that is going to be in other ways that you couldn't even possibly imagine, So I talk a lot about, I guess, that sort of thing. And, less, because like, going back to I wasn't like a lesson guy, so I would not like, not really like the one to talk about like, you got to practice. If you want to be great at something, you have to practice. I mean, that's sounds great, but I'm not, that's not my spiel.
What do you think is the essence of greatness then? Like, how do you achieve greatness?
I think part of it is, being honest and sort of believing what you're doing. And, when you're working together, like for me, it's just when you can convey, like for musically speaking, I mean, when you can convey emotion and give people an experience of feeling something.
But if I'm a kid sitting in career day and I'm asking you, how did you get there?
Yeah.
Is it through hard work? Is it through luck? Some combination of the two?
Definitely a combination of the two. And also, being...
And maybe that hard work doesn't necessarily mean like sitting and practicing.
Practicing your rudiments. Yeah. I mean, it's everything. And it's being part of it. Knowing how to be part of a team, I feel like that's like a big part of it. I mean, if you're not somebody that can like work with other people and understand other people, I mean, I just feel like that's what's so important with everything, especially with music. Like, who wants to be, there's like with my band, for example, it's just, I mean, I can honestly say like there's like zero, ego or sort of attitude, even like the whole crew, like from everyone, not just the band and crew, like from our tour manager to everyone. It's just sort of like it's about being, working together and being, just being cool to each other.
Is that something that you've always known, or is it something that life has taught you?
I mean, I think personally speaking, like group dynamics has always been of great interest to me. Like I've always been like pretty into like how we interact as humans, and like all those dynamics. A lot of it's related to music, but a lot of it's just, I'm always fascinated by how group dynamics work and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think I've probably always been pretty into / aware of the significance of how one engages, like interpersonally. I mean, when I think back to like the opportunities that I've had musically, it's often been, I think, not because I'm like some amazing drummer. I think it's because for other reasons,
Because you're an amazing band member?
I mean, there's like 21 hours of the day when you're not playing music.
Right.
What happens in those 21 hours?
Did you go to college?
I did, yeah. And I studied psychology and music, kind of like
Band dynamics.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, thinking about it now, like, yeah, I guess it sort of makes sense.
Where did you go to school?
In Williamsburg, Virginia. It's College of William and Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And, loved it. I met my wife there. So, for that alone, I'm glad that I went there.
What was she studying?
She was studying government and sociology, mostly. She's a teacher. I think we were both. I think I kind of like going back a little bit, like, did I always envision myself being, a drummer or whatever? I think I always envisioned myself being a teacher because I did love school so much.
The Trap Set will always be available for free, but we rely on donations from our listeners. Please visit our website at thetrapset.net and click donate. Subscribe to our show on iTunes, and if you enjoy what you hear, give us a review.
So you've been with your wife since college?
20 years last Friday.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
How much of that time have you been married? 14 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were kids. We thought we were so old. Like, we're waiting so long to get married,
Well,
And it's like, we were like 27. But, we'd lived together for 6-7 years, whatever, already. Moved out to San Francisco together, like became adults together, sort of, like found, sort of left home at the same time, like finished college and moved out together to San Francisco and sort of just sort of found ourselves,
That's rare that happens, that people grow together.
I guess so, yeah.
At least
just saying
at
that
this
out
day and
loud, I
age.
was just thinking about that.
Right?
Yeah.
How did you end up in Philly?
Well, so yeah, we were in San Francisco essentially like for our 20s, in our 20s, and like kind of came a time where it's like flying back east all the time, sort of like, her family's in Connecticut, my mom's in Virginia, my dad was in Providence. It's just sort of like, are we doing this? Like, are we staying here forever? Or are we going to like, what are we doing? In San Francisco, it was really expensive. And just kind of thinking about, I don't know, like there was like a time, our roots got so deep there, like real deep. And I mean, leaving San Francisco was the hardest thing I've ever done. We'd ever, the hardest decision that, we ever made. But my brother lived in Philly, so I was kind of, I was aware of it. And I just loved, it was very different from San Francisco. But thinking about where on the East Coast I wanted to live, I was like, New York, I didn't want to do that. Boston was strangely just as pricey as San Francisco.
Yeah.
Like bananas. Also just weird in other respects.
You mean because of the like whole haze of discontent that hangs over Boston?
Yeah, I never really thought about it like that. Maybe it is. I was thinking sort of racially a little weird.
Yeah, that's happening
But,
there too.
yeah, there's that haze of discontent. I like that phrase. Not interested in D.C. or Northern Virginia, So it was like, I just got a good feel from Philly. It's kind of like a little bit of an underdog town. Bands, moved there immediately. Just I was like, wow, like bands all like go to each other's shows and encourage each other and kind of have these communities, and it's really cool. I just found immediately this like these really interesting communities of bands and stuff like that, and that's how this band all came together. It's just sort of like through these different groups of people playing together. I mean, the early days of the War on Drugs was very kind of like a revolving cast of characters, that Adam sort of would bring in and out of the fold, and
Right.
lots of different drummers and lots of different people playing lots.
And
of
Kurt
different
was writing
instruments.
songs for it
Kurt
at first.
I don't know that I wouldn't say that Kurt was writing songs for it, but Kurt was definitely,
What was his role?
playing the guitar loud.
Okay.
And Adam was playing Kurt's music with Kurt. You know what I mean?
Ah,
Kurt was
got it.
playing Adam's music with Adam. Adam was playing Kurt's music with Kurt. So there are these two. I understand why it's kind of can be confusing for people sometimes to sort of like, but that's really kind of like the way it was. Like they both had like their own thing, and they were both bands at one point were like just the two of them, sort of, in a
Right.
sense. It's like War on Drugs was Adam and Kurt, and Kurt Weill was Kurt and Adam.
Right.
Of course it's confusing.
Got it.
But that's kind of what was going on, and I think they, Kurt was probably in the fold till I can't remember when.
What was the first band you joined in Philly?
In Philly, it was with my friend Joey Sweeney. It was called The Trouble with Sweeney, and then all the while I was still playing with this guy Tommy Guerrero in San Francisco, which was mostly like a Japan thing. Like we mostly like go to Japan a couple times a year, because that's like where his music stuff is really, really sort of happening. And then in Philly it was The Trouble with Sweeney. Then playing with Windsor for the Derby, which is my friend Dan Matz and Jason McNeely, and that was a really great band.
Do you feel like playing in all these different bands in Philly kind of elevated your skills as a musician?
Yeah, definitely. Playing different, when I moved to Philly, it was the first time I was really like playing songs. Like in all my whole time in San Francisco was playing straight ahead jazz, and also like kind of free-formed freak out, like Miles Davis, Electric Miles kind of stuff.
When did you get turned on to that stuff? In college?
No, when I was a kid, I got turned on to Kind of Blue. Okay, so it's like like this, classic, amazing album. And so that what happened was I was like, all right, like I love Miles Davis now. I don't know. So maybe I was a freshman in high school or something. It became like my thing. It's like I'm into jazz.
Did you wear a beret?
Oh God, yeah.
You did?
Oh yeah. Jazz hats, African.
Shit.
I'd go to New York.
Did you read Miles's autobiography and start talking like him?
Didn't talk like him, but definitely read that book more than once. I would go to New York and buy I'd go to the African store and buy the brimless African hat. Went through that whole phase. Yeah, the long hair and the jazz hat.
I'm glad that we're getting to this. Okay,
Oh yeah,
keep going.
no,
Keep going.
For real. Wide well cords. Probably had a Tibetan vest. So what happened was I was
You were that private school kid taking the fucking train or bus into the city.
And then I was like, I'm gonna get another Miles record. So I saw On the Corner. I was like, oh, that cover looks awesome, So I bought it, took it home, and I was really, really confused.
Really?
Well, yeah, I was it sounded like a traffic jam or something.
I feel
and
like
every
those kind
song
of
sort of
records
starts with that groove, and I'm like, what's going on? Is this skipping? Is this the way it's supposed to sound? Who's on this? There was no personnel. It was one of those really early Columbia masters where there's no real information in the CD booklet.
You got it. It was one thing with the cover, and then the back was white.
Yeah, and I was just like, what is this? But I kept listening to it because it was so from another world. The same feeling I got when I was 4, hearing Sgt. Pepper's. I'm like, what are these sounds? Is this live? Why are people talking? Just that whole sort of
That was your
transporting you
thought process when you were 4, or is that you injecting your
No, I
adult-
think I remember vividly the smell of our house.
Yeah.
And putting that record on in that confusing cover.
Do you remember what your first drum set smelled like?
Oh, yeah. I Like I can pull that smell up like right now.
Mine, I remember unboxing it, and it smelled like new wood and cigarettes. That smell of cigarettes and fresh wood is just like the most beautiful smell to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Today's episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by Keplinger Drums. Since the 70s, Greg Keplinger has distinguished himself as an innovator, handcrafting one-of-a-kind snare drums out of stainless steel, copper, brass, and black iron. Greg's stylistically versatile drums have been played by everyone from Elvin Jones to Matt Cameron. You can check out keplingerdrums.com for more information or visit his Instagram page to see examples of his work. Tell me about the dynamic of War on Drugs. How does the band work?
Well, it's a band with a very clear center, axis or whatever you call it. This is Adam's vision is very clear. Like there's no, and I think we all are like totally on board. You know what I mean? Like there's not really that much like ambiguity in terms of like role clarification or like, hey, I wrote this tune, like it's not really like that. It's like Adam's kind of just like surrounded himself with people. He just wants us to do our thing, which is cool, but like I also, it's really like trying to find his thing. That sounds weird. I don't know if I sort of verbalizing that right, but
so you see your role as somebody who's trying to facilitate Adam's vision. And
yeah,
and you can do so in a
honestly,
creative way.
Great. We're all doing we're all doing us. Like Robbie's doing Robbie, like in his whole key world thing. I mean, he's amazing. Dave's an amazing bass player. And, John, Anthony, like everybody's just doing their thing, but it really is like part of a very singular vision, which I love. I mean, I wouldn't do this if I didn't love the music or love the people. You know what I mean? Like this is like family, and I like to be at home, so I wouldn't do this under any other circumstances. Like if we didn't love each other like truly, like I wouldn't probably be doing this. So yeah, the dynamic is very kind of it's we're pretty. I would say it's like a real balance between like really serious and really light. Like it's a lot of laughing, a lot of humor. Yeah, that's like a lot of riffing, a lot of riffs. There's so many bits, so many recurring bits.
Well, look, I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being here. Let's hang up.
Let's hang up.
All right. Thanks for doing this.
Of course.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.